Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we're discussing how VR just isn't right for everyone. So if you've been interested in getting into VR for the first time but you have some concerns, this video is for you. Additionally, VR fans should find this conversation interesting because when you love VR, it's pretty hard to understand anyone who doesn't. I'm personally a huge fan who started my VR journey 7 years ago, now owns 13 different headsets, and constantly game on all platforms including Quest, PCVR, and the PlayStation VR 2. But I also do plenty of flat screen gaming on Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and Nintendo Switch. So with a wide range of gaming knowledge and over 30 years as a gamer, I can understand the different mindsets out there and easily describe the top 5 reasons why VR just might not be for you. Now there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, this video is brought to you by my sponsor, Kiwi Design. They currently make my favorite Quest 2 Elite strap, which comes in multiple different versions. You can add an extra battery pack, high quality headphones, or even both. They also have other products like Valve Index style hand straps, and they just introduced a brand new RGB stand. Your controllers and headset magnetically connect. There's a charging indicator so you'll know when your headset's ready to go. And there's plenty of different RGB color options available. There's a link to Kiwi Design down in the description. And don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 5% off and to help support this channel. Now these issues will be listed in ascending order, but before we get into it, I want to know what you think VR's most pressing issue is right now down in the comments. Is it a lack of games or their quality? Are headsets too uncomfortable? Or is it something else entirely? Please let me know. Okay, so our first issue is Meta. Now this issue definitely isn't as big as it once was. However, a stigma still remains around Meta. It does appear though that the name change from Facebook has helped the company. Back when Facebook originally purchased Oculus, there was an expected backlash on the internet, and a forced Facebook account didn't make matters any better. Now to this day, you'll still hear consumers say they'll never buy a product from Facebook, but that hasn't stopped the company from selling 20 million units. Now, as much as the privacy concern still remains from companies like Meta, but as I've stated numerous times in the past, people don't care and just want cool products at cheap prices. But there's another aspect of Meta that discourages people from getting into VR, and that's their obsession with the metaverse and turning this platform into the next computing device. Optics surrounding the metaverse are absolutely terrible, and they continually showcase goofy-looking cartoon worlds. It's leagues away from the absolutely fantastic immersion that VR can provide, and when you show off Nintendo 64-style graphics and claim it's the future, be prepared to be mocked. And making matters even worse, after years of working to break the mindset that VR is too expensive, they went and released a $1,500 headset. They made the claim that it's a productivity device, which is hardly true except for some extremely niche cases, and the software is just not ready for any type of productivity environment. And in true irony, Meta just recently stated that working in person is more efficient. But in terms of why VR might not be right for you, this one's pretty low on the totem pole, only impacts people with strong Meta opinions, and there are still other ways to get into VR such as PCVR and the PlayStation VR 2. Now an even bigger issue for many is the price tag. While Meta has made some great strides in this department, subsidizing the price tag all the way down to $300 for a limited time, but now the basic entry price tag to VR remains around $400. While definitely not excessive and comparable to a console, it is a much harder sell as it's brand new technology. Those buying a gaming console generally know what they're getting into, but you can't really know if you'll enjoy VR until you try it. So $400 or more just to find out if it's right for you is a big ask. Additionally, these standalone headsets are uncomfortable or have a very limited battery life, so you'll usually end up spending $50 or more on additional accessories. Now, if you're looking to avoid Meta or want a higher end VR experience, the price tag begins to skyrocket. You can absolutely use the Quest 2 or even a Pico 4 for PCVR, but you're also going to need a gaming PC. The PlayStation VR 2 starts at $550, plus you'll need a $400 PlayStation 5, so we're looking at around $1,000, which is much harder to ask for compared to $400. It also looks like the days of cheap subsidized headsets is coming to an end. The Meta Quest 3 is launching later this year, and due to the company's own statements, we're expecting a price tag between $500 and $600. This is potentially double what the Quest 2 launched at, and the headset is once again coming with a soft strap that I'm sure many users will want to update. And the final kick in the teeth to the high price tag is the VR industry still treats us like early adopters. The original Quest is less than 4 years old, and not only has it stopped getting new games, but it's also lost access to some of its previous titles like Population 1, Onward, and Zenith. So you're about to be asked to pay a premium price for a double batch of uncertainty. You don't know if you'll like VR, and you don't know how long this technology will last. But who cares about the price tag if VR is just way too uncomfortable for you to play? Now, comfort actually comes in many flavors, and we're not just talking about what the VR headset feels like on your head. We also need to consider the fact that users might not be willing to mess up their hair, leave big red marks on their face, break a sweat every time they play, or they might just suffer from motion sickness. but let's break these down one by one. VR headsets have come a long way, and for the most part, users can tolerate wearing them for at least an hour. Between new comfort accessories, redesigns, and headsets just getting much lighter, this isn't the issue that it once was. I found the original Vive headset nearly unbearable, and the foam facial insert was just a sweat magnet. The Vive Pro was no better, and its level of heat made it so unbearable that I hardly ever wore it longer than 45 minutes. But newer headsets have made significant improvements. While the Valve Index is quite heavy, it's excellently balanced, and there's no real major pressure points on your face. The PlayStation VR 2 is extremely light, and slimmed-down headsets like the Quest Pro and Pico 4 are another great step forward. But overall comfort is subjective, and some people just can't stand to wear these headsets. You also have the additional annoyance of messing up your hair, leaving red marks on your face, or breaking a sweat. So VR gaming isn't as convenient as traditional gaming. Also, if you like to play video games to wind down and relax, VR might not be right for you. The vast majority of games are physically active, some to the point that they feel like cardio. So after a long day of work, the last thing you might want to do is jump around your room like an idiot swinging at virtual characters. Now, while I acknowledge this makes gaming much more immersive, it also makes it less suitable for everyone. And the final comfort issue that plagues about 5% of the population is motion sickness. While the vast majority of us will only experience no to minor discomfort, for others it is completely unbearable. There's nothing worse than wanting to have a little fun gaming, and then losing your lunch and spending the next few hours on the couch. It's the type of situation that could prevent you from playing VR ever again. But even if you feel completely comfortable in VR, you might still find it lacking content. That's right, after 7 years, the VR industry is still suffering to give us higher quality games. There's a handful of absolutely amazing titles out there. The indie scene has really come out strong to represent VR. And if you're not looking for a lot of overall depth and just want to have fun in your games, VR has hundreds of titles. But if you're a fan of big blockbuster AAA games, well then prepare to be disappointed. There's Half-Life Alyx, Resident Evil 4, 7, and 8, a few other indie titles that come close like Lone Echo and Asgard's Wrath, and finally we have some unofficial mods that take flat screen games and make them playable in VR. So if you've become accustomed to those huge open worlds or absolutely stunning cinematics, well then you'll find them missing in VR. And additionally, a lot of VR games have dated graphics, which is an even more important aspect in virtual reality. I know we play games and not graphics after all, but there is a reason why companies keep trying to up the ante in this department, and that's simply because we love eye candy. It's also pretty common to hear consumers refer to VR games as just tech demos. This is because in comparison to flat screen titles, they have significantly less mechanics, much shorter hours of gameplay, and smaller production values that just limit the scope of the title. And speaking of the titles themselves, there are some genres that are just not represented in VR at all. Open worlds are in extremely short supply, there's a lack of RPGs and MOBA titles, and there's really only one VR MMO to speak of. So a pretty significant reason why VR might not be right for you is because it lacks the games you want to play. But another major issue that is rarely spoken about is how some people are just immune to the magic of VR. For most people, the first time you get into VR, it is absolutely amazing. It doesn't really matter what the experience is. It could be slicing blocks in Beat Saber, shooting down some drones in Space Pirate Trainer, or just the Steam VR tutorial. For many, once they get into a bigger VR experience, it almost goes to the point of overwhelming. My wife's palms were absolutely dripping wet when she played Richie's Plank Experience, which is a prime example of how powerful VR is. I've made it a personal mission to show more and more people what VR is all about, but every once in a while I come across a person who is just not impressed in the least. They walk across Richie's Plank like it's a complete joke. They complain about having to move their arms around in game, and every drop of that awe that everyone else experiences is just completely lost on them. Now, I'm not sure if they're dead inside, lack stereoscopic vision, or this is some sort of brand new personality disorder, but whatever the case may be, these people seem to be born for anything but virtual reality. Now, I can't explain it, I don't understand it, and the only way to find out if you're one of those people is to experience VR for yourself. And that right there was the top 5 reasons why VR might not be right for you. But I do want to end off with some final statements and things you should overlook if you are going to get into VR. Just like some people are immune to the magic of VR, there's others who have the opposite effect. It becomes an absolutely amazing world that they never want to leave. They start spending their lives in some amazing VR social environments, and I personally believe this is a healthy way to socialize. So definitely don't think VR is all bad, and make sure you try it out so you don't end up neglecting yourself from this amazing opportunity. For most others, like myself, it's just another great supplemental way to game, as I wouldn't want to spend all of my gaming time in VR, but if I only had access to flat screen, I would definitely find myself missing it. And finally, if you had a bad experience years ago, VR has changed, go ahead and try it again. And try and avoid some of the overly strong opinions out there, as there's people out there equally overhyping it and crapping all over it. So if you haven't figured out my opinion yet, I think it's absolutely amazing, but not right for everyone. But before you go, I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments.
And that was today's video, brought to you by my dad, Mateo311. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here,
Consider subscribing.
consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
We'll see you guys on next time.
We'll see you guys on next time.